The night felt wrong from the moment Emily stepped onto the silent street, sensing a truth hiding in the shadows. A single message on her phone flickered to life, carrying a warning she could not ignore no matter how she tried. She walked forward, heart unsteady, as distant sirens cut through the air like a reminder that danger was close. Every window around her looked darker than usual, as if the entire neighborhood was holding its breath with quiet fear. She tightened her coat, unsure whether she was being followed or simply imagining footsteps echoing behind her again. When she finally reached the house at the end of the block, the door stood half open, waiting for her to enter. The morning after Emily found the open door, she returned with a trembling resolve. She kept replaying the unease from the night before, fearing what she might uncover inside. The hallway smelled faintly of dust and old memories, reminding her of summers she wished to forget. A framed photograph lay shattered on the floor, showing faces she recognized but could not fully trust. She knelt to pick it up, noticing a smear across the glass that looked too fresh to ignore. Her hands shook as she traced the outline of a missing figure once centered in the frame. Someone had removed him carefully, leaving only a torn edge and a chilling implication in its place. Emily felt the weight of secrets pressing against her chest, urging her to turn back immediately. But a soft creak from deeper in the house pulled her forward like an invisible command. She stepped cautiously, each footfall echoing louder than the last as if announcing her presence deliberately. Dust floated in the thin sunlight slipping through the blinds, creating a haze that distorted every familiar shape. In the living room, she spotted a stack of unopened letters tied together with a dark ribbon. Her name was written on the top envelope, in handwriting she had not seen for years. She hesitated, then tore it open, expecting an apology or explanation she had waited too long to hear. Instead, the letter contained only one cryptic line, telling her not to trust the people closest. The warning grew heavier in her mind with each breath, until it felt carved into her thoughts. She searched the remaining envelopes for clues, but they were all empty except for blank sheets of paper. A cold gust swept through the room suddenly, slamming a window shut and making her flinch in alarm. Emily spun around, half expecting someone to be standing behind her ready to whisper another secret. But the house remained silent, watching her with a stillness that felt increasingly unnatural. She moved toward the kitchen, where a faint tapping sound echoed like knuckles against wood. The noise repeated with a rhythm that resembled a message she could almost decipher but not fully grasp. Her pulse quickened as she followed it, feeling the walls tighten around her like a closing trap. On the counter sat a small notebook she had never seen before, marked with dried raindrops. She opened it carefully, revealing page after page filled with sketches of places she once visited. In the corner of each drawing was a date, matching moments she never shared with anyone else. Someone had been watching her long before she realized she was not living unnoticed anymore. A chill ran across her spine as she imagined all the unseen eyes that had followed her quietly. The tapping sound returned, louder this time, coming from the basement door just behind her. Her breath caught when she saw the handle turning slightly, as if pushed from the other side. Every instinct begged her to run, yet something deeper urged her to confront the truth waiting below. She steadied her shaking hand on the railing, preparing herself for whatever waited in the darkness beneath. The basement stairs groaned under her weight as she descended toward shadows that swallowed every trace of light. Her heart pounded fiercely, warning her that the answers she sought might destroy her once revealed. But Emily continued downward, knowing she could no longer escape the mystery tightening around her life. The basement felt colder than Emily remembered, holding a damp stillness that clung to her skin immediately. Her steps sounded too loud, bouncing off the walls in sharp echoes that made the darkness feel alive. A faint light flickered at the far end of the room like a pulse, struggling to stay awake. She approached it slowly, each movement measured as if the air itself resisted her presence there. On an old workbench, she found tools scattered in patterns that made no logical sense at all. Wires looped across the surface, connecting to a small recorder that blinked with a dying red light. Emily pressed the button instinctively, hopping for a clue, yet terrified of the voice she might hear. A distorted crackle filled the room before a man's whisper emerged, trembling with urgency and fear. He spoke her name, as though he had been waiting for her, to find the message hidden in the dark. The voice warned her again not to trust familiar faces, insisting that betrayal was already in motion. The recorded breath that followed sounded strained, as if spoken under threat or desperate constraint. Emily stopped the playback abruptly, feeling the weight of his warning settle heavily against her chest. She searched the basement for signs of recent activity, convinced someone had been here before her. The dust on the floor was disturbed, forming tracks that led toward a locked storage room nearby. She crouched to inspect them, realizing they were too fresh to belong to anyone from the past. The lock on the door was new, gleaming unnaturally against the rusty hinges surrounding it. Emily tried the handle gently, finding it sealed tight as though guarding something dangerous within. A small metal box rested beside the door, half buried beneath discarded papers and frayed cords. She opened it cautiously, revealing a set of keys labeled with dates instead of descriptive names. One key was marked with the previous night's date, sending a sharp jolt through her thoughts. She held it between her fingers, unsure whether unlocking the door would offer answers or more fear. With a deep breath, she pressed the key into the lock and turned it until the metal clicked open. The door swung inward slowly, releasing a cold draft scented with mildew and something metallic. Stacks of notebooks lined the shelves inside, each marked with letters that formed her initials. Emily flipped open the first one she found, discovering detailed notes about her routines and habits. Someone had documented her life meticulously, observing her patterns with unnerving precision for years. Her throat tightened as she realized the handwriting resembled the notes she received long ago. She moved deeper into the room, scanning for anything that explained why she had been watched. A map hung on the back wall, covered in red strings, connecting places she once visited unknowingly. Circles marked intersections, where paths of different people crossed around her like silent shadows. She recognized one name scribbled repeatedly across the edges, belonging to someone she trusted deeply. The revelation struck her hard, forcing her to confront suspicions she tried to bury for too long. Her phone buzzed suddenly in her pocket, vibrating with a force that startled her into panic. When she checked the screen, an unknown number flashed with a new message that chilled her. It said the same familiar warning again, only this time adding that she was no longer alone. Emily lifted her gaze toward the doorway, sensing the presence of someone watching her from the dark. Emily froze, feeling eyes on her from the shadows beyond the basement doorway. Her breath caught as the darkness seemed to shift, revealing fleeting shapes moving just out of focus. The phone buzzed again, and she fumbled to check the message before her courage failed entirely. It read, "Do not turn around. They are closer than you think." Her heart hammered as she slowly backed toward the shelves, trying to keep herself between them and the unknown threat. A soft shuffle echoed behind her, deliberate and unhurried, as though whoever it was wanted her to hear every step. She gripped a nearby metal pipe, ready to defend herself if needed, tension coiling through her muscles. The flickering light above made the shadows dance, turning familiar shapes into threatening figures. Emily strained to see who, or what was approaching, but the darkness swallowed every clear detail. A whisper floated through the air, almost lost, saying her name with cruel familiarity. Fear clenched her stomach as she realized it came from inside the basement, not from her imagination. She tightened her grip on the pipe, her hands slick with cold sweat, and waited for the next sound. A floorboard creaked sharply to her left, and she swung toward it instinctively, heart pounding violently. No one was there, yet the presence was undeniable, pressing in with every heartbeat she felt. Her eyes caught a glint on the far wall, a small reflective surface flashing under the weak light. It was a mirror she had never noticed before, showing a shadowed figure standing directly behind her. Emily spun around, but the space was empty, leaving only the echo of her own ragged breathing. Her mind raced, questioning if she was losing touch with reality or if something more sinister lurked here. The whispers returned, layered and overlapping, growing louder with each passing second. Emily backed further, knocking over a stack of notebooks, the crash sounding like an alarm through the basement. From the fallen pages, a photograph slipped out, showing a man she recognized from her past. He was smiling in the picture, but his eyes held a warning that she could not ignore. Her pulse quickened as she realized the photograph matched the figure in the mirror's reflection. The metal pipe felt heavier in her hands, as though the fear was transferring into its weight. A cold draft swept past, carrying a faint metallic scent that made her stomach churn violently. She turned slowly, scanning every corner of the basement for movement, knowing it was pointless. The shadows seemed to twist of their own accord, forming shapes that mocked her attempts to understand. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut with a deafening bang, knocking her off balance entirely. Emily scrambled to the door, trying the handle, but it was locked from the outside, trapping her. Her mind raced as she searched for an escape, the notebooks and scattered items forming obstacles around her. The whispers coalesced into a single phrase, "You cannot run from what you started." Her chest tightened, the words reverberating like a curse that left no room for doubt. Emily spotted a narrow stairwell leading to a lower crawlspace she hadn't noticed before. She dropped the pipe, crawling toward the small opening with trembling urgency and hope for refuge. The air inside was cold and damp, pressing against her skin as she edged forward, almost invisible. From above, she could hear faint footsteps packing, deliberate, as if her every move was being measured. The whispers grew more urgent, repeating her name and the warnings she could no longer ignore. Emily forced herself onward, crawling into the darkness, determined to uncover the truth or face the danger head-on. Emily crawled through the narrow crawlspace, every movement tight and careful against the cold stone walls. The darkness pressed around her, thick and unyielding, muffling her own shallow breaths completely. Her hands scraped against rough surfaces as she moved, leaving thin lines of blood she barely noticed. Somewhere above, she heard the basement door creak and footsteps packing, slow and deliberate. She tried to remember how she had entered this house, questioning every choice that led her here. A faint glimmer of light appeared ahead, promising space beyond the suffocating darkness. Emily inched toward it, each crawl pulling her further from the basement and closer to the unknown. Her fingers brushed against something metallic, cold and smooth, a key or a latch perhaps. She hesitated, realizing it could be a trap or a clue, but knew she had no other options. With careful pressure, she pushed the object aside, revealing a narrow hatch that led upward. The light grew stronger as she lifted the hatch and peered into a small hidden room above. Inside, papers and photographs covered a desk, some pinned with red strings like a chaotic map. Emily stepped cautiously, heart racing, knowing she might finally find answers to the warnings. She recognized some faces in the photos, people she once trusted, their expressions frozen in deceit. One photo showed a man staring directly at the camera, eerily familiar, like someone she knew well. A folded note lay on the desk, sealed in black wax, its weight heavy with unspoken threats. Emily broke the seal, revealing words that made her stomach churn with dread and recognition. It listed her daily routines, her friends, and a series of events that had already come true. Someone had been watching her life for months, maybe even years, anticipating every move. She realized the warnings were not random. They were orchestrated, precise, meant to manipulate. The footsteps from below stopped abruptly, leaving an eerie silence that pressed against her ears. Emily shivered, sensing she was not alone, even in this hidden room that felt fragile and exposed. A small drawer in the desk caught her eye, slightly ajar, as if inviting her to uncover what was inside. She opened it, finding a stack of letters bound with red thread, each addressed to her. The first letter described events she remembered vividly, confirming someone knew every detail. The next letter contained threats, veiled as warnings, suggesting betrayal by someone closest. Her pulse spiked as she realized the handwriting resembled a familiar friend from her past. A sudden sound above startled her, and she ducked instinctively, pressing against the wall for cover. It was only the wind slipping through a crack, but the fear it evoked was real and immediate. Emily scanned the room quickly, looking for an exit or a hiding place if needed. A small door in the corner led to another passage, darker and narrower, but possibly safer. She moved toward it, clutching the letters tightly, knowing they contained clues she could not ignore. Her mind raced with every possibility, every ally or enemy she had ever trusted now in question. The crawlspace below remained ominous, reminding her that she had nowhere truly safe. Emily squeezed through the narrow doorway, emerging into a hallway that twisted and turned unpredictably. She paused, listening, knowing the truth she sought was nearby, and danger was following closely behind. Every shadow seemed alive, every whisper a reminder that someone, somewhere, was always watching. She pressed forward, determined to uncover the full story before the consequences reached her. Emily moved cautiously down the twisting hallway, each step echoing softly against the cold walls. The letters in her hand felt heavier with every step, burdened with truths she wasn't ready to face. Faint light flickered ahead, casting shadows that shifted like living figures in the corners of her vision. She paused, listening, her ears straining for any sound that might indicate movement nearby. A whisper brushed against her mind, repeating her name with a tone both familiar and threatening. Her pulse quickened as she realized someone was guiding her, or perhaps luring her deeper into danger. The walls seemed to narrow, pressing in on her, as though the house itself was alive and watching. Emily reached a closed door at the end of the hall, the wood scratched and warped from years of neglect. She placed a trembling hand on the handle, feeling an energy that made her skin crawl immediately. The letters pulsed in her grip, as if they contained the answer to the mysteries surrounding her. With a deep breath, she turned the handle and pushed the door open slowly, revealing another room. Inside, a single chair faced the center, and on it lay a small recorder blinking faintly in red. Emily approached, heart hammering, and pressed play, fearing what voice might emerge this time. The recorder crackled, then a voice began, familiar but distorted, recounting events from her life. It described secrets she had told no one, moments of weakness only she remembered clearly. Her hands shook as she realized someone had been inside her mind, watching and documenting every choice. The voice grew sharper, warning her of betrayal within her closest circle of friends. Emily felt a cold dread settle over her, knowing she could no longer trust anyone completely. A sudden knock echoed from behind the door she had just entered, sharp and deliberate. She spun around, finding no one, but the sound confirmed someone was very close now. Her instincts screamed to flee, but curiosity rooted her to the floor, needing answers above all else. The recorder continued, naming locations she frequented, predicting her actions before she acted. A slip of paper fell from the chair, revealing coordinates and a date scribbled hastily in black ink. Emily recognized the date. It was tomorrow, only hours away, and the coordinates led to an abandoned warehouse. Her heart sank as she realized the warnings were no longer theoretical. Something was about to happen. She gathered the letters and the slip of paper, knowing she had to prepare for whatever awaited. A shadow passed across the room, quick and deliberate, reminding her that she was still being watched. Emily moved to the window, peering out into the night, searching for any sign of the unseen observer. The street was empty, silent, but the air felt charged with anticipation and imminent danger. She backed away from the window, mind racing through scenarios, trying to anticipate the threat. The recorder clicked off suddenly, leaving an oppressive silence in its place, heavy with implication. Emily realized She had only moments to decide how to act, and hesitation could cost her dearly. She pocketed the slip of paper, leaving the recorder behind, unwilling to take more chances. Every instinct screamed to leave immediately, but the fear of the unknown held her in place. Her breathing slowed as she focused, preparing herself for the confrontation she knew was coming. Emily stepped into the hallway again, letters clutched tightly, resolved to uncover the truth and survive. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward her, a reminder that the danger was not just real but patient. She moved forward, one careful step at a time, toward the warehouse and whatever awaited her there. Emily reached the abandoned warehouse just as the moon slipped behind thick clouds, cloaking the area in shadow. The building loomed before her, broken windows like dark eyes watching every move she made carefully. She held the slip of paper tightly, memorizing the coordinates and the date that brought her here tonight. The wind whistled through cracks in the walls, carrying a chill that made her shiver despite her coat. Every instinct screamed that someone, or something, was already waiting for her inside the building. She pushed the heavy door open slowly, the rusty hinges groaning loudly into the still night. Inside, darkness swallowed the space, broken only by faint beams of light through shattered windows. Emily's footsteps echoed sharply as she moved deeper, listening for any sound that could betray a presence. A low hum began, subtle at first, then louder, vibrating through the floor and walls around her. Her heart pounded as she followed the sound, each step measured, careful not to alert anyone. A figure appeared in the distance, obscured by shadows, its posture rigid and deliberate in the dim light. Emily froze, trying to make out details, but the darkness seemed to distort the figure's form. The hum intensified, coming from a device on a table, wires leading to monitors showing different angles. She realized someone had been observing her every move tonight, recording her path and reactions. The figure stepped closer, and she finally recognized the face. It was someone she had once trusted completely. Betrayal struck hard, freezing her in place as the realization sank into her bones fully. The person smiled faintly, voice calm but cold, acknowledging her fear with unnerving precision. "You came exactly when I knew you would," the voice said, echoing slightly in the cavernous space. Emily steadied her shaking hands, gripping the letters, determined not to let fear control her actions. "You've seen too much," the figure continued, stepping closer, light revealing a mix of anger and regret. She backed toward a pile of crates, searching for something to protect herself with if needed. The monitors flickered, displaying images of the basement, the crawlspace, and even the hallway from earlier. Emily realized every secret, every step she took, had been tracked, documented, and analyzed carefully. Her mind raced, trying to find a way out or a weakness in someone so methodical and prepared. The figure paused, tilting their head, as if expecting her next move and relishing her hesitation. Emily noticed a cord hanging loosely from one monitor, a potential opportunity to create a distraction. She lunged suddenly, yanking the cord free, causing sparks to fly and the monitors to black out instantly. The figure cursed, stumbling slightly, giving her precious seconds to move deeper into the shadows. Emily ran, heart pounding, following a path she had memorized from her reconnaissance earlier tonight. She reached a narrow exit at the side of the warehouse, pushing it open and feeling the cool night air. The figure appeared at the doorway, shouting, but she was already disappearing into the darkness outside. Emily ran through the alleyways, letters and slip of paper clutched tightly, adrenaline carrying her forward. Every instinct guided her, avoiding familiar streets, knowing someone might still be tracking her steps. She paused briefly on a rooftop, looking back at the warehouse, now just a dark silhouette against the night. The danger was still present, but she had survived, and for now, that was enough to keep moving forward. Emily took a deep breath, forcing herself to think clearly, knowing the truth she sought was still ahead. She disappeared into the night, resolved to uncover every secret, no matter the cost or betrayal waiting. The letters burned in her mind like a map, guiding her next move while the shadows watched silently. Emily's journey was far from over, but she had faced the immediate threat and gained a momentary edge. With determination, she ran further into the unknown, ready to confront the dangers still lying in wait. Emily paused at the edge of the city, breathing heavily, the letters clutched tightly in her hands. The night was silent, yet every shadow seemed alive, watching her every move carefully. She reflected on the betrayals, the secrets, and the dangers she had narrowly survived tonight. Her mind raced, piecing together the messages, the warnings, and the identities of those who lied. The slip of paper felt heavier than ever, a symbol of the truth she had yet to fully uncover. Emily knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time, she felt a sense of control. Every step she took now was deliberate, calculated, guided by the knowledge she had gained. The city lights flickered ahead, promising both safety and new challenges waiting beyond the darkness. She tucked the letters securely in her coat, resolving to expose every secret and face every threat. Emily's heart steadied, the fear lingering but now tempered by determination and courage. The night stretched endlessly, but she moved forward, unwilling to be trapped by shadows again. Her story was no longer defined by others' actions, but by her choices and resolve to survive. With a final glance at the dark horizon, she vanished into the city, ready to confront the truth. The danger remained, but so did her will, strong, unbroken, and prepared for whatever came next. Emily disappeared into the night, a survivor shaped by secrets, betrayal, and relentless courage.